Hi guys, just got a quick video here to show you how we can describe a chemical reaction. So as we know, most of the atoms in the universe don't exist as single elements. Most atoms have reacted with other atoms. So when these chemical reactions happen, the atoms have been rearranged and formed into something new. So before and after the reaction, the atoms are arranged in a particular way in that particular substance, and that's what determines what type of chemical or other material that it is. So when the chemical reaction takes place, these pieces get rearranged, shuffled about and put in a different order. So they might be in a different arrangement or a different order or a different combination, but there are the same number of pieces there at the end as there was at the beginning. This has a particular name. This is called the law of conservation of mass. So when we're trying to work out what type of chemical substances we have, we can describe those substances using either their names or a chemical formula. So the chemical formula tells us how many and what type of atoms we have in that particular substance. So let's have a look at a couple of examples. Here is one of the most recognized chemical formulae, H2O, probably known as water. So with H2O, we can see there is a little 2 on the H, no numbers listed on the O. This is 2 atoms of hydrogen, 1 atom of oxygen. Similar formula here, we have H2SO4, much the same, this is 2 atoms of hydrogen. This time we have 1 atom of sulfur and 4 atoms of oxygen. The little numbers apply to whichever element they come after. The 2 is touching the H, so that's 2 hydrogens there. The 4 is touching the O, 4 oxygens. So we can use the formula to describe these things, or we can give them a name. So there are many different ways that we name certain chemical substances, but we'll look at the simplest one. So if you're naming a chemical compound that only has 2 elements, the first element, you just name that one. And then the second element in the formula, you use that name, but you change the last part of its name to "ide". So let me show you an example, and that'll make it a little bit clearer, hopefully. Here we have MgO. So this is made of magnesium and oxygen. So we don't call this stuff magnesium oxygen. We change the last part of the second formula name to "ide". So this stuff is actually called magnesium oxide. The last thing we need to worry about today is how we actually describe the reaction itself. So to describe the changes that happen during a chemical reaction, as the title of this slide suggests, we use a chemical equation. So to write a chemical equation, we use 3 major things, or 3 parts to the equation, if you like. We start with the reactants. These are the substances that go into the reaction, the things that we start with. What comes out of the reaction are called the products. Like the name would suggest, these are things that are produced in the reaction. The last part that goes into a chemical equation is an arrow, because this shows that the reactants have turned into the products. They've gone from one to the other. We don't use an equal sign in a chemical equation because that tells us that the 2 things are exactly the same. So a chemical equation goes from one type of thing to another. So we use an arrow sign rather than an equal to show that transition. So they all fit into this basic pattern. Reactants, arrow, products, because the reactants turn into products. If you have more than one reactant or more than one product in your equation there, you put a plus sign in between them. So here's a pretty simple example. Carbon plus oxygen gives us carbon dioxide. When you're writing your equations, you can write them using the name of the chemical or the formula of the chemical. We don't write both. If you need to give me the name and the chemical, then you need to do two equations. So for example, one of my favourite chemical reactions, hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide, react those two things together, you get water and sodium chloride. There's the word equation. If we need the formula equation, it's written like this. HCl plus NaOH gives us H2O plus NaCl. Either the words or the symbols, never together. So hopefully this gives you a bit of a reference on how to draw your chemical equations, how to name some basic substances, and how to interpret your formula. All right, thanks very much. See you next time.